crawling back, my friends. It's me, Vicious Talkery. Yep, I am back. If you're watching this sometime years in the future, there would have been no break between my last video and this one. All you poor folks that are watching in real time, it's been about 4 months. So I'm glad to get back at it. The last 4 months have been pretty crazy. Had lots of stuff going on, work, and I joined another band, so I'm in 2 bands and playing a lot of D&D. So I'm really glad to get back and talk about Tomb of Annihilation, my all-time favorite campaign. So here's what we're going to try to do. So I've actually recorded this video, I think 3 times in 3 different styles. I've been trying to figure out how to make this interesting and how to make it exciting and fun. Because what I want to do is recap all of our sessions. We had 45 sessions, so that's a lot of me just talking. So I went the route of super produced, like paid for an AI generator subscription to create custom artwork, and I wrote a script. It was going to be like audiobook, and I bet it would have been great, but I never ever would have made it past 3 episodes if I had to put that much work into it. And then I tried just kind of speeding through it. Like I wanted to try to get it in a half an hour, and so I just ran fast through it, and it just didn't seem right. So I'm going to try. This is my 3rd try, my 3rd kind of concept for how to do this, and really I'm just going to go through it. I'm just going to talk through it. I wrote out every week. I wrote out a very detailed recap of all of our sessions. So if I can find a way to somehow post those, I'll post those as well. Because I remember there's a bunch of sites that did that. Rogue Watson's the one I can think of the most that had really great recaps after he would do a video recap and then he would write it out. So if I can find a way to do that simply, I'll do that. But at least I've got a script to go through. I'm just going to kind of walk through it. I do have some photography that I made up with the AI. I'll try to weave in some visuals as we go through all this stuff, but I just want to share with you the amazing adventure that we had. We had so much fun. I'm going to try to tell this as a story, but I'm probably going to do it on the side here and there when there's actual gameplay things that I did or things that I chose to do different, or little explanations for those D&D folks in the audience, maybe some funny things that happen with the rules or whatever. But I want to kind of make this accessible to other people that don't necessarily know all that. So try to sort of run through it as a story and with some game-based commentary here and there. So the way the book is written, it starts out very abruptly, as in the players get contacted by Sindra Sylvain and then are instantly teleported to her house, and the campaign starts right away. That always seems super abrupt to me, and I wanted to change that up and make it a little bit more exciting. I also wanted to work in the snout of Ogmar, which is an island to the very, very far south of Chult. That's where the turtles live. So I wanted to work that in because I thought that was just a cool little supplement to this campaign. And so I started out completely different. So the first 3 sessions, the first 3 recaps are 90-something% my crazy homebrew ideas. So use them, as your mileage may vary. If you like these or not, use them for any kind of thing you want. But I thought they were a lot of fun, and I was just trying to get the players into the mood that this was going to be a very dangerous campaign, that things weren't going to be as they seemed, and there was going to be lots of craziness going on. So that's where I started from. Check out this video, wherever it pops up, that talks a little bit about the ground rules that we set down on how the game was going to be played, and that'll kind of give you an idea of the stakes that were involved with these players. So we start out on a ship in the middle of the ocean. It's a sailing vessel. It's an old ship, but it's well taken care of. And the captain's name is Krankowski. And people call him Captain Cranky. He doesn't yell, he doesn't scream, but his crew does exactly what he wants. So who knows if that's because they've been screamed at before and they're well trained, or he's got some other hold on them. But the crew is very disciplined. Captain Cranky gets things done. On this is a cargo vessel taking goods from the coast down to Port Nyanzaru. And there are 4 passengers on the ship. There is a drow ranger. His name is Sis. He is escaping a matriarchal society where he was enslaved and where his matriarch was basically prepping all of her minions for war and just to become cannon fodder. So he was not into that. So he's on the run. We have Talfin, who is a Earth Genasi, skin black, stone black. There's an odd haze of dust or ash that kind of follows him around wherever he goes. Very quiet. He's very nice. He's very genteel, but he is not talkative. He does quite often he's got a bunch of knives on his person, and he's constantly either sharpening them or kind of doing tricks with them. Then we have 2 dwarves. One's name is Gorex, who is a mountain dwarf, who is a cleric, and he is going to Chult for unknown reasons. If you ask him why he is, he says, I have my own reasons, and he doesn't want to talk to you anymore. He spends a lot of his time below decks, reading and studying and doing those kinds of things. But he does carry a very, very large axe, a very large hammer, and nobody's going to mess with him. And then lastly, there's another dwarf cleric named Corin Stoneshield. And he is much more experienced. He's an adventurer of no small note. And the reason that everyone on the boat knows that is because he tells them every single chance he gets. Hundreds of conversations have been had. 98% of them were Corin talking to someone who probably was trying to not listen to him. He fought dragons. He stormed castles. He found magic potions and, magic ghost princesses and anything you can think of. The stories just got bigger and bigger as he went. One story that he kept telling over and over again is how defending a castle, he actually was slain, and his patron god loved him so much, and this is how he tells it, loved it so much and knew the world would be a horrible place without him, he raised Corin from the dead so that he could fight on. So he talked about that a lot. I was saved, and I was saved this and that, and resurrected, and, the world couldn't go on without me. That was his favorite thing. So this is a couple weeks worth of voyage, trying to get from the mainland to Port Nyanzaru. They're probably a couple of days out from the port when the lookout yells lifeboat off the port bow. So everybody kind of stops. They've had a very uneventful trip, and all of a sudden something's happening, so everyone's interested. And they run up to the ship, up to the front of the ship, and they see a very small little kind of rowboat, lifeboat floating out there, and they can tell there's probably one person in it. So they pull up, they go towards it, they pull the ship in, the boat in, and they lift the guy up out of the boat. Tattered clothes, ragged beard, kind of crazy look in his eyes, and kind of just falls to the floor onto the ship. Just seems like a horrible shipwreck victim, right? Well, Talfin didn't quite believe that and kind of took a little closer look and started getting bad vibes off of this guy. Just at that point, one of the sailors was looking down at the lifeboat and he yells, "This lifeboat is full of food. Like, way more food than one guy would ever be able to use or scrounge from a shipwreck." So at that point, Captain Cranky comes over and lifts the man up to try to talk to him and figure out what's going on. And right as he does that, the man rips his shirt open and his chest is covered in glowing kind of pink tattoos that are glowing magical light. And in the middle is this giant purplish crystal that's just protruding out of his chest. And everyone kind of steps back because you don't see that very every day. And the guy just yells, "Here I am!" And he crams that crystal into his chest. Instantly, everybody's vision kind of blinks out for a second. And when they open up, they're no longer on the ocean. They're still on the boat, but they're not in the blue skies and the gently tumbling ocean. They're in a vast void of space, tinged by purplish clouds, far off galaxies and kind of a purple hue to everything, and just floating along. Everyone's terrified. Can't figure out what the heck's just happened. In the back of their heads, they hear this whining scream. They can't figure out exactly what it was. And almost at once, they all turn around and look down, and it's the guy, the castaway, and he's just stuck in a just a desperate scream of agony, and they can hear that reverberating through. Well, as they have no idea how long they've been floating through this vast expanse, this other plane that they're on, and until ahead of them they see a portal that's kind of swirling, and past the portal there's the ocean again. Beautiful blue skies, calm oceans, and their ship is silently trudging towards it. The moment they go through the portal, everything's fine. There's no jolt. There's no, magical light. There's no flash of sound or light. And they're on the ocean again, and they're surrounded by seagulls. And the thing that they notice is that a second ago they were in the open ocean, and now there's actually land to the port. I was going to say left. The port side of the ship, there's green. There's kind of a stony island with a lot of greenery and jungle. And in front of them, there's another kind of point of land. And on that, there's a giant sculpture of a anthropomorphic turtle. It's a turtle, and he's blowing a big horn like a trumpet. Captain Cranky can't believe it. He's like, snout of Ogmar? That's 1,400 miles away from where they were a second ago. So he's trying to figure that out. Everyone's running around, scurrying around, trying to figure out what just happened to him. Until the lookout once again yells, dark ship ahead, dark ship behind. And they look, and sure enough, there's two dark ships coming around and coming right towards them in opposite directions. Instantly, it's obvious that this is some kind of ambush. The party members kind of freak out a little bit, but Captain Cranky very, very quietly and very calmly walks to the top of the ship, pulls a little lever that none of them had ever seen, and out from the floor comes a pipe organ. Just comes up, locks into place. He flips back the tails of his jacket, sits down, cracks his fingers a little bit, and starts playing a tune. The party members are shocked. There's obviously pirates coming from both sides here, and the captain, who's been so smart all along, is now just playing the pipe organ. Well, he also starts to sing, and he has the most beautiful singing voice. And they're kind of wrapped up in it for a second because, first of all, it's so incongruous that they'd be almost in a battle and he's up there singing a song. And then the voice was so inviting and delightful. Then they realized that the lyrics he was singing were orders to his crew. And it was all sung in a perfect verse. The rhyming scheme was perfect. No matter what the situation, every little bit of his orders came out as he sang this song, and his crew executed them instantly and perfectly. So this ship had one ballista up front, one in back, and then they had a mangonel, which is kind of like a big catapult in the middle for long-range attacks. And below, the crew started putting out oars. So they had the sails, and now they're going to do some extra oars. So now the song that the captain is singing starts naming out Sis and Corin and Gorex and Talfin, giving them orders of what they need to do. Talfin runs to the front to the ballista to help the other mate. Sis goes to the mangonel. Gorex goes below and gets on an oar. Who am I forgetting? Sis, Talfin, Corin. Yeah, Corin runs back to the back ballista. And from here, it's just a spectacular display of seamanship. The captain turns his boat on a dime, cuts all the distance. The other boats start trying to cut off, and he reverses course and gets out. He's just a genius. And again, every order to trim the sail or to, cut the oars or fire the ballista, every bit of it comes into this beautiful song that he seems to be writing instantaneously, but that fits perfectly with the tune and everything else. Eventually, they come up on some rocky mountains or rocky islands that short little islands, but enough with a space between them the boats can go through. And Cranky figures out how to cut them both off and get through those islands and get to the other side, and hopefully give him enough time to run and get away. As they come around through the thing, off to the side, off to the front of them, there's another ship, a black ship that hadn't been in the original fight, waiting for them to do just exactly the same thing. As they're looking at it, the whole side of the ship just erupts in smoke and, tongues of fire. Moments later, hundreds of pounds of metal just fly over them as, this ship obviously gives them a full broadside of cannons. This is not something that the ship, which is called the Whale Belly, by the way. I didn't mention that before. Cranky's ship is called the Whale Belly. So from there, the other ships start closing in. There was a pretty funny moment where Talfin was trying to aim and fire the ballista at one of the ships, and he did something horribly wrong, and it became completely unstrung. So he had to figure out how to get it all put back together as everybody else is yelling and screaming at him. The other crew takes some great shots and puts one of the ships out of commission. So now there's one behind, and then the one ahead, and Cranky just says, drive in as fast as you can to the new cannon ship. Talfin gets his ballista figured out, takes an amazing shot, basically completely knocks the other captain out, like his only thing left on the ship is his boots, and the rest of them's out being fish food. They eventually come up on the cannon ship, which ties up. They're throwing lines over to keep them set. From below, Gorex sees this and uses his cleric skill to light a holy flame on one of the ropes, trying to burn it through. A huge melee happens. Corin instantly shows his prowess, that he actually can back up the boasting. Casts a sleep spell. Most of the pirates on the one ship go to sleep. Sizz is just taking shots. He's a ranger, pulls out his bow, and he's just taking bullseyes at everybody. Talfin is a genius with these throwing knives, and he's throwing them all over the place. Gorex hears this from below and does not want to be left out, so he runs up and jumps across to the other ship, almost falls, grabs onto the railing, pulls himself up, and just starts swinging his axe. He conjures a spiritual weapon, which is also an axe, and it's just hammering on everybody. I mean, it's going pretty good until they notice that the pirates in the back of the ship are turning their cannons around to be able to fire into the party. Captain Cranky's song increases in tempo just a little bit, and one-handed he kind of makes a little gesture with his hand, and next to the rope that Gorex had set on fire appears a giant magical hand, bigger than normal. Grabs that flaming rope, tears it off, flies it into the ship, the pirate ship, down inside the belly of the ship into the powder magazine, and lights it on fire. Half the ship explodes. Half the pirates get blown out into nothingness. And once everybody kind of recovers from their shock, there's still enemies to be had. The last ship is just pulling up, so they're about to be grouped in. They're about to have pirates on both sides of them. And just as that ship is pulling in, the sea bulges up 10 or 15 feet. And just at the apex of this giant pressure wave, through the third ship, the pirate ship, this giant scaly reptilian beast just bursts through it. Kind of blue-purple skin, makes this horrible screeching noise, and Cranky yells out, "Leviathan!" And it jumps out, and it kind of twists in the air, and then falls back down on all three ships. Everything goes black. The next thing we see is there's a humble turtle sitting on the beach, minding his own business, looking out to the ocean. He starts hearing cannon shots, wonders what that was. He starts kind of looking out there, sees there were some ships. He, eats a banana or two, and then he looks back out and realizes there's no more ships out there. Weird. A couple more bananas. And then looks out, and there's debris floating into the shore. And among the debris, there are 4 bodies. And Hansen, being the tender heart that he is, Hansen is the name of the turtle. You'll get to know him very well. He jumps in the water and swims out, and in turn brings all 4 of these people in. Bet you can't guess who they are. Yep, Gorex, Corin, Sis, and Talfin. Pulls them in, gets them up onto shore, builds a fire, helps them kind of get warmed up, get them back into being, gives them some bananas that he just found. And they all start kind of waking up and realizing, that they had just been attacked by a Leviathan and nobody survives that. But also they're sitting on a tropical beach with a campfire going and a very concerned turtle companion who's trying to make sure that they're as comfortable as possible. Well, they finally figure out that he saved them. They're trying to get over the fact that they were just about killed. Most of them are very quiet, but Corin, not quiet. He starts talking and spouting and telling the stories. You would have thought that he slew the Leviathan before their ships were sunk. He tells all the stories that he's told a million times. Fought a dragon, stormed a castle, I was killed once and I was brought back from the dead. This and that, all these big stories. Everyone else is just, rolling their eyes and trying to look out to the sea and not listen because they'd heard it so many times. But Hans Zinn loved it, like ate it up. Give me the stories, give me the stories. So they sit and talk and talk and talk. So finally Hans says, well, I can get you back to my city, which is probably maybe a day's walk away. But the reason I'm here is I'm trying to get my treasure back. I have treasure that was stolen by the pirates. And they all kind of looked at him like, well, the pirates just died out in the ocean. I mean, there's nobody's going to survive that. He's like, those were the pirates on the ships. There are pirates in a cave not far from here that I've tried to sneak into, but it's just too well fortified. So I kind of came out here to eat and drink and sit and think and figure out what the next move was. And now you're here, and Corin's like the greatest warrior I've ever heard of. You guys look like you're competent. Can you please help me raid this pirate cove and get my treasure back? Sis was not super excited about it. Han was not, as a side note, not super cordial to Sis being a drow. For whatever reason, did not like the drow. He was also very confused that Talfin, the Earth Genasi, was not a drow. The dark skin and the white hair kind of threw him off a little bit, but he was trying to wrap his head around the fact that, okay, there's one drow and maybe another. Anyway, that doesn't mean he was rude to him. He just wasn't quite as friendly. So they finally agree to it. They start going up the pathway, going towards this cave that he's guiding them to. As they see the cave entrance, they kind of move forward and one of them trips over a tripwire. And behind some rocks, there were a bunch of cages. And the cages open up and all these crazy baboons start screaming and yelling and running towards them. A dozen of them. Just huge fangs and claws and screaming and yelling. Everybody prepares themselves, knocks arrows, grabs their knives. Han was just kind of getting ready to start fighting. Corin just runs forward, yelling and screaming, and sits down on the ground and does a little incantation. And all around him appear ghostly, phantasmal dwarves, his ancestors, pop into kind of a blue, transparent vision all around him. And as the baboons charge in on this sitting target, they run through the ghost wall, the spiritual guardians, and just get hacksawed. They just get completely food processed and no longer a threat. As soon as there's no threat, Corin kind of stands up, looks back, gives him a little wink, and then let's keep moving. Han is amazed, just amazed that happened. Can't stop talking about what an amazing thing that was. Everyone else, while amazed, were not talking about it because they've kind of not really liked Corin and thought he was full of it, but then he does something like this, so they're kind of trying to question their own thoughts and beliefs about this guy. So they go into the cave, and it's a long, very, very earthen cave. It's not a carved tunnel by any means. And eventually they get to a part that opens up more into a chamber. And it's lit by torches, so they know something's up. They kind of creep in. As they're approaching it, they can smell this acrid, burning flesh, acidic air, smoke, really, really nasty, whatever's happened in this room. And as they come around the corner, they notice a very large purple crystal coming up out of the ground that has been shattered. There's shards of it all over the ground, still steam and smoke coming up off of it. Next to it on the floor is a human wizard, looks like a wizard, he's in wizard cape, wizard robes, that is just burnt. Like just something exploded on this poor guy. Smoke coming up off him, without a doubt, deceased. Parts of a necklace of some kind. There's a staff of some kind that's shattered. There's a stone table kind of behind him with a bunch of books and diagrams that have smoke coming up off of them, all that stuff. As they're looking at this, a human kind of apprentice jumps out and tries to defend the lab, but is instantly taken down again by by Corin's spirit guardians. The room's quiet, and they're all trying to figure out what just happened. You know, it's the same kind of crystal that they saw the guy shove into his chest, and trying to figure out what the heck's going on. Well, that kind of stuff doesn't interest Han at all. Like, Han is here for his treasure. He's going to go find it. There's a hallway to the back of this room, and he goes over to it. And the two dwarves follow him, Gorex and Corin. There's a red kind of glowing light in front of them through this little tunnel. And as they come into the room, it opens up into a smaller chamber, but a chamber nonetheless. On one side of it, there's a river of magma, lava. At the end of the hall, there's a guy. There's a black-bearded, obviously the pirate captain, right? Big old hat, big old beard, and just dripping with pistols, right? He's got a cutlass and a bunch of these pistols. And he yells out, you know, this doesn't have to end badly. You know, we can all walk out of here richer than we ever thought we'd be. And you look over to the side, and there's a wooden platform that he's built out over the lava. So the lava river's here, platform goes out over it. It's full of riches, right? And Han notices a little wooden case, pretty nondescript wooden chest that's there in the middle of it. That's his treasure. So as the pirate's trying to, you know, whatever, try to talk himself out of this, Han just sprints as fast as he can towards that chest to try to save it. Of course, the pirate just starts shooting, right? Shooting, all these things. Gorek starts charging in, his axe in hand, swinging it all around. Corin's running forward, shooting bolts of energy. Soon enough, the pirate goes down. Like, he gets hit far enough that he falls back. As he falls back, his leg kicks out, and there was a string tied to his boot that went to one of the legs of that platform, and it pulls it out. And instantly, that platform just starts teetering, going into the lava. Well, Han, with all of his strength and every bit of him, jumps and at the last second grabs that chest and pulls it out so it doesn't fall into the lava. Everything else does. And then right behind him, Corin grabs his feet because Han had enough momentum he was going to fly off into the lava. But grabs him, pulls him back in. Crazy turtle. So then silence. They start looking around the room, the chamber, to see if there's anything else to be found. There's really not much left. In the corner, there's a tall steel cage. And inside it, there's a tiefling who's kind of crumpled up on the floor, emaciated, not moving, not talking. Obviously someone that they had imprisoned and were keeping for ransom or some other reason. Corin runs up, busts the lock off. They grab the tiefling and pull him out. He's basically unconscious. He can't speak, or he's just obviously been malnourished and maltreated for quite some time. So as they walk out, back out of this chamber, back into the wizard's chamber, Talfin and Sis have kind of been searching around the room, and it come to find out that there were some documents on the table, and Talfin was able to kind of decipher them a little bit. And it would appear that this wizard found that this crazy big pink or big purple crystal that was in this cave was able to, focus magic or do something crazy, super powerful. And he was able to combine that with a talisman of plane shift and a staff or a wand of teleport. And he figured out how to rig all this stuff together, focus it through the crystal. And the idea was that he would be able to teleport something from far, far away, something huge from far away, very vast distances. And that's exactly what they did. So the plan was, We can teleport a ship that's, fairly protected near Port Nianzaro and bring it all the way down here, down south, drop it right in the middle of an ambush, and we can just, easily attack these ships and take everything we want from it. The catch was they had to have some kind of focus point for it to go to, and that's who that guy was. The poor guy that was in the raft with all the food, just waiting out there for a ship to come by and pick him up so that he can, start the plan. Obviously genius, like it was, a genius mind that came up with this plan, and it pretty much worked once. And the wizard is super dead. He must not have carried the one, because there was some pretty major problems with his math. Most of the crystals shattered. He's dead as a doornail. Most of his research is burned up. Another example of a crazy, crazy plan that wasn't quite crazy enough. They gather everything up and they walk out. It's pretty close to twilight, so they figure they'd just stay on the beach one more night and then go back to Han's city. Build a campfire, and obviously the second there's a campfire built, Corin's going to get up and just start yapping and telling all of his stories. He told all the favorites. There was a dragon and a castle and a horde of orcs, and he was killed and brought back from the dead, and he found some magic harp. Every time it just turned into all these crazy things. And now he's talking about a pirate that he shot into the lava, blah, 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 by himself. So Han loves it. Everyone else can't stand it. So Corin's there, and he's into it. Like, he stood up next by the fire, and he's got his hands waving around. He's pantomiming this huge battle that he had at some point, and then he just goes stone still, and his eyes kind of bug out, and he falls backwards right to the ground, dead as a doornail. They run up to him, and he's cold. There's no life left to him, and they notice he's got these purple bruises that have formed on his face that weren't there before. That's how the first session went. Ended on a crazy cliffhanger. This powerful ally that they had this whole time, who got him out of a lot of scrapes, just dead, straight down. No sign of attack, no sign of anything, just down to the ground. Let me tell you a little of the behind the scenes for this session. All right. So I wanted to very much illustrate for my players how deadly this campaign was, and that anyone could die at any time, and that nothing was really as it seemed. So one of our players, name is Scott, I called him up before the game and said, build 2 characters. Build one character that's a level 5, and build one that's a level 1. Actually, I think I gave him level 2. And I said, the level 5 guy, you play him to the utmost. Like, use everything he's got to be as powerful as you possibly can be. But you will die at the end of the session. So just be ready for that, but you will die. Nobody else knew that was going to happen. So basically they went through the first session and one of the player characters died. So already in session 1, a player character is dead. This is not messing around. This is for real. And I thought it was great. I don't know. Obviously, I think it's a genius idea. We'll have to ask the players at some point and see if they were as shocked as I thought they'd be. But that was a great way to start it. All right, my friends. Here's my first shot at a recap. I hope these are good. Please comment. Let me know what you think. See if there's something you'd rather me do. If you want a little more game stuff, a little more story stuff. I'm pretty sure there were 45 seconds. So I've got a few more of these to hone in the skills. But any thoughts you've got right now, that'd be great. Glad to be back. And I'll be back as soon as I can with more videos. So thank you very much. Like, subscribe, write a blog article someplace. I don't know, send a letter to your congressman, whatever. Tell them Vicious Talkery is the place to be. So thank you very much, and rock on.